All right, we're back online. Pick up in the second half, second Esdras chapter 10, in the Apocrypha. We're going to pick up now, first verse. So it says in second Esdras chapter 10, verse 1, and it came to pass that when my son was entered into his wedding chamber, he fell down and died. Right. So remember, this is the Esdras being shown a vision, or was in a trance while he was in the field, and he's seeing this woman who's mourning, ash on her head, and now she's given the summation of all the events that happened up until to this point. Right. So we know that she was barren for 30 years. Her and her husband was able to have a son. Everybody was happy, about to get married, set up a feast, and now as he's going into the wedding chamber, he fell down and died. Now, who remembers this? There's another something similar to this, but not on the same direct line, but something similar to this. Who remembers what that was? Tobit. What happened?
There was a demon was killing her husband.
Right. The woman that Tobias was supposed to marry, everyone that was given into her, died in the wedding chamber. Right. When they were supposed to go and consummate the marriage, the spirit came and killed off those men. Right. Until Tobias came, then the angel Raphael told him what he was supposed to do before they were supposed to consummate the marriage. Right. And then they went, performed the instruction that Raphael told them, consummated the marriage, left, went back home, and they had a big feast, right? So that's what happened with in the book of Tobit with Tobias. I forget, was it Rachel or I forget his wife's name. I want to say it was Rachel.
Jacob?
No, the wife's name.
Oh.
The one that they had to, when they had to tell, when he had to do the physical.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the things that I remember we was talking with that camp, and they were saying that that's why they don't deal with it, because they saw that to be witchcraft. Yeah, why cannot see what her name was? This is just killing me what her name was. Sarah. Her name was Sarah. So yeah, Tobias and Sarah. But here, back in second Esdras, so in this context, again, this is not real. This is, an allegory that's going to come to a higher meaning as we read further on in the chapter. But this is what Esdras is seeing and hearing from this woman. It says, then we all overthrew the lights, and all my neighbors rose up to comfort me. So I took my rest until the second day at night, right? So a son died in the wedding chamber. Of course, it was a lot of mourning, crying, yelling, and then she departed, right? That's what she's saying here. I took my rest. No, she took her rest until the second day. And it says in verse 3, and it came to pass when they had all left off to comfort me, to the end I might be quiet. Then I rose up by night and fled and came hither into this field as thou seest, right? So scripture talk about when death usually happens, there's always in a company of women who go and help and mourn with those who just fell victim to death. Like, I forget the exact phrase, but it's like the mourners of women that go and try to give you solace or comfort. So she's like, all right, that happens for a time. Second day after they all left, I left and fled, and I came here to be by myself. And her objective, based on what we read in the last chapter, she was just going to just bewail herself and add more sorrow unto your misery. right? Whole list, go to second Esdras. I'm sorry, Ecclesiasticus, I believe. Ecclesiasticus chapter 22. Let me see if that's the one I want.
Okay. Isaiah.
No, I want not 22. Go to 38. Ecclesiasticus 38.
Hmm.
38:17. Actually, right. So this is just going into just the perspective about death and mourning and such the like. So I'm gonna start at 16. Ecclesiasticus chapter 38, verse 16. It says, "My son, let tears fall down over the dead and begin to lament, as if thou hadst suffered great harm thyself, and then cover his body according to the custom, and neglect not his burial." Right? Weep bitterly and make great moan and use lamentation as he is worthy, and that a day or two, lest thou be evil spoken of, and then comfort thyself for thy heaviness. Meaning, for somebody who's worthy, you go and mourn, you lament, right? As he's worthy. And that you should do this. It says, lest evil be spoken of, because if you're a person who, somebody's died and you don't even go to show your respect, so you don't mourn with them, you don't show sympathy or whatever, what's going to follow? Evil is going to be spoken of, because they're going to say this guy didn't care anything about such and such. He never showed up. He never sent a card. He never sent any condolences or sympathy, any of that. While we over here mourning, he out there partying. He didn't care, right? So it says, nah, go out there and express your mourning, your concern and your comfort for those who died. Bury them, mourn for a certain space of days. But then it's going to tell you, it says, and then comfort thyself for thy heaviness, meaning you got to try to come out of that sorrow, because if you don't, it says, verse 18, for if heaviness cometh death, and the heaviness of the heart breaketh strength. Meaning, if you continue in that state, it's going to break your spirit, right? You will not have a need to move on, which should not be the case, especially for us who understand how the Most High works with regeneration of the spirit and where your spirit goes and what they're dealing with and what's to come, right? We know all those things, so we should not allow that to break our spirit. But that's what usually happens with some people, where they never get over the loss, and it is always a heavy burden on them to where they're not rationally discerning or thinking. Like I said, years ago, I told the story a couple times where when we had a church up in North, we met a sister, me and Kasad, you met a sister on the street coming down Halsey, and we saw her stop, was talking, and we gave her some money or something like that, and we was talking with her, and she was coherent, could speak well, everything. And then I remember Kasad actually said, pardon me from asking, but how did you end up in the state that you ended up in? And she said, well, my husband died, I never recovered. She's like, that building right there, I worked up there, I had a good job, I worked on this floor, everything, but when my husband died, I just couldn't maintain. I just lost it, right? So that heaviness took hold of her, and it broke her spirit. When your spirit is broken, you don't care for much, right? You don't care for yourself, you don't care for bills, you don't care for anything. You just let everything go, right? And that's not what should be the case. So there's a time to mourn, like it tells you in Ecclesiastes 3. There's a time and a purpose under the sun for everything, right? A time to mourn, a time to laugh, a time to hate, time to do all these things. But in this context, you don't want it to break your strength, right? It says, and affliction also sorrow remaineth, and the life of the poor is a curse of the heart. It says, take no heaviness to heart, drive it away, and remember the last end, right? So don't take it or let it rest on your heart, right? Because it's going to be hard to get it off once you continue in it for such a long time. So go in with the right perspective about it before it takes or grabs hold of you.
You just read?
Ecclesiasticus 38, verse 16, and I stopped at 20. Actually, I'm going to read the last one, 21. 21 says, forget it not, for there is no turning again. Thou shalt not do him good, but hurt thyself. Right? So by you in that state that you're in, you're not helping him or her, but you only hurting yourself. Right? So I said it in context to what we're reading here, just to make sure that, you know, on a carnal level, we never get into that state where the heaviness overtakes us and it breaks your strength. So this is with verse
16, 17.
17. We didn't get down to 17 yet. Yeah. No, we still up in like. Oh no, and yeah, I started at 16 and I read down to 21, I think. But I mean, what am I linking this with back here in Second Esdras, verse 3?
That's why some people have bereavement groups and people to help you and counsel you, you know?
Right.
And it's good for you to be among people.
Right.
And because you're going to meet other people, like in a bereavement group, you can see other people who are going through the same thing too, and to help each other and help each other out of it, you know?
Yeah. And when I was young, I kind of never really understood it. You know, everybody come over and they bring food and everything else, and they just sit there and they just there and they just talk. But as I got older, I understood it just for that certain purpose, because if you left alone, sometimes you add more burden onto yourself with your mind. Your mind can be your own worst enemy in those cases, right? Because you go on, the same thing with like depression. When you just leave yourself to your own mind and you in that state, you just go deeper and deeper and deeper. You need something else or somebody else to help you come up out of that, you know? And that's why even like you don't even want to eat. Like when you're going through this, that's why people come in, they bring food, they try to help you, coax you to eat, because you ain't even going to prepare food, let alone eat it. So they're like, nah, here's some food. We brought food for everybody else. You eat, we talk, and we talk about good things about the person, anything, have you come up out of that state so you can move on.
I think someone was saying, like in certain countries, people will like jump in the grave hole, you know?
Yeah.
Jump in there, crying over it, and you know, people have to like pull them back and console them, you know? Don't go there, the person is gone, you know?
Right. I think that verse I was talking about was Jeremiah, the 9th chapter. And Jeremiah 9:17, where it says, thus saith the Lord of hosts, consider ye and call for the mourning women, that they may come, and send for the cunning women, that they may come, and let them make haste and take up a wailing for us, that our eyes may run down with tears and our eyelids gush out with waters. Right? So there was always a case where you had the mourning women, just like how you have right now. When something happens, you have a flux of women or sisters who come to the house and mourn with you, sympathize with you, cry with you, laugh with you, all of that. So in this case, when you read this chapter, the Most High said that this was going to be the case. Well, you're going to have those women there because of the destruction that was going to come, right? You're going to have certain people come and wail or mourn or cry out for you. That was Jeremiah 9:17 to 18. Yeah, but when you read that whole chapter, it goes into the women that come to mourn and to crying over what was going to be the destruction of Israel. But now let's go back to 2nd Esdras 10. I'll read 3 again. It says, It says, and it came to pass when they had all left off to comfort me to the end I might be quiet. Then rose I up by night and fled and came hither into this field as thou seest. And I do now purpose not to return into the city, but here to stay, and neither to eat nor drink, but continually to mourn and to fast until I die. Right? She like, look, I ain't got no care to live no more. Like, this is it. My son is dead. I don't want to live no more. Right? I left everybody. I'm not going to eat no more. That's it. It says, then left I the meditations wherein I was, and spake to her in anger. Right? So, you know, he's going through his own things. He was sent into the field by Uriel to go and eat the herbs, right, pray, and wait for him to return and give him more answers. So here it is. You know, the time has gone by, right? I think it's 7 days completed, and now the angel Uriel does return, but he doesn't return in the same fashion that Esdras was privy to before. Now it's by the space of this woman that is being used to teach him something different. All right. So he says he left off meditating. So for 7 days he's meditating on the scriptures, right? He's meditating on what is the end of our nation and everything that the Most High, all these tokens or signs the Most High had just shown me up until then. So read verse 5 again. Then left I the meditations wherein I was, and spake to her in anger, saying, thou foolish woman above all other, seest thou not us, Salak, seest thou not our mourning and what happeneth unto us, right? So he like, look, how can you be so selfish? Look at all of us. All of us is going in the morning. It's just not just you, right? We all dealing with it. How you now think that you going through so much more pain than the whole nation? Because we were still in captivity, right? So how is it that you now feel that, you know, the weight that's on you or your son dying is more than everybody else's, right? So that's why he's calling her foolish above all, right? Verse 7, how that Zion, our mother, is full of all heaviness and much humbled, mourning very sore, right? So not only just the people, but the city, the temple, all of that. Remember when you read in Maccabees, go to 2 Maccabees real quick. 2 Maccabees, the 14th, 2 Maccabees, the 15th chapter. Second Maccabees 15, 17 to 18. So 2 Maccabees 15 and 17 says, thus being well comforted by the words of Judas, which were very good and able to stir them up to valor and to encourage the hearts of the young men, they determined not to pitch camp, but courageously set upon them and manfully to try the matter by conflict, because the city and the sanctuary and the temple were in danger, right? So almost the same thing as what was going on during Esdras' time. The city, right, the people and the temple were in much danger. The sanctuary and the temple was in much danger because the nation and the heathen was rounding us about in conflict to engage us in war and to kill and to destroy us. So it says in verse 18, it says, for the care that they took for their wives and their children, their brethren and kinsfolk was in least account with them. So that's what you would think would be the most account, your family, your friends, right? But that was in least account with them. It says, but the greatest and principal fear was for the holy temple, right? So the temple was most important to us because that's where we looked at as our go-between between us and the Most High. That's where we would go offer up our sacrifices to the Lord, of the daily sacrifices, the sin and trespass sacrifices, all of those things to be what? Forgiven for our sins or to be accepted of the Most High. If the temple ain't there no more, how are we going to do that? Where's our conduit now? Where do we get our blessings from that the Most High is going to be well received of us if there's no temple? This was our thinking. Now, we know fast forward, when you get into the New Testament, the Most High and Yahweh Shai through the spirit of Paul removed that ideology from our mind and said, forget the physical building as a temple, we're the temple, right? So this is how we now offer up our sacrifices and our offerings to be accepted of the Lord through us, not through the building. But back then, that was their mind state because that's what we had. Now, same thing here. It's like when you look at what these people was going through in the conflict as well, they weren't just selfish to think that it was just me or my children. They looked at the whole nation and saying, how do we stand now but through this conduit, this temple? It's just not me. All of us is going through this. So how do we get back? We got to get the temple right and get ourselves right, and then we good. Not just me. You have people who laid their lives on the line for the nation, right? Didn't regard themselves, putting themselves in the conflict for the nation. So now when you come back, Esdras is looking like, yo, how you just, going to just give all up when you see everything that's going on right now? We still in a fight. They still trying to kill us. Like, we need people like you to come help us instead of just giving up. We can't give up. So this goes to like what Bakwa was talking about earlier. When you got that seed, you always want to be able to be disciplined. You want to have that fortitude to overcome and continue on no matter what, right? So now he is kind of looking at her in that mindset like, yo, how you ready to die? Like, all of us is going through turmoil, trials and tribulations. So that was 2 Maccabees 15, 17 to 18. So now we're going to go back to 2nd Esdras. We at verse
6.
Con. I read 6 again. It says, thou foolish woman above all other, seest thou not our mourning and what happened unto us? How that Zion, our mother, is full of all heaviness and much humbled, mourning very sore. And now, seeing we all mourn and are sad, for we are all in heaviness, art thou grieved for one son? Right? Are you just upset about your one son and not everybody else's? Do you not care about anyone else's and only your own? Right? It says, for ask the earth, and she shall tell thee that it is she which ought to mourn for the fall of so many that grow upon her. Right? So to take it from just you and your house, consider everything. Man comes from the earth. How many dead Israelites have been buried in the earth? Right? That comes from the earth, especially Israel. So the earth will have more to mourn than just you over one because it has buried so many. Right? It says, for out of her came all at the first, and out of her shall all others come. And behold, they walk almost all into destruction, and a multitude of them is utterly rooted out. Right? So the earth itself has to realize that, it's always brought forth man in the earth. It's always accepted those that have died in wickedness. And then there's still going to be man that's going to come up to perpetuate more wickedness, right? And then it's going to tell you that there's a seed that's going to be utterly rooted out. Like the Most High tells you in the Old Testament that there's going to be a group of people that's not going to be written in the book of life from the within Israel. That's known from what happened when we came out of Egypt. They're going to be taken out. They can never make it back in. No repent, nothing is going to be able to have them get back in. But we don't know who they are. So that's the case with how the Most High's vantage point is and our vantage point is. The same way we don't know who they are that will utterly be rooted out. We don't know who's going to be in. We don't know anyone that's going to be in the book of life, except for those who the scriptures have told us. Noah, Daniel, Job, the 12 disciples, right? Because Christ told not the 11 of the 12, right? Because he said they're going to be seated judging the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel in the kingdom. Remember, they asked Yahweh Shah about that. We've given up all. What are we going to get? And Yahweh Shah told them they're going to be seated on the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel, judging them. So those we know will make it by name, but we don't know who they are today. We don't know who these people are. You could be one of them. You could be one of them. You yourself don't know. Right? You yourself don't know. But keep in mind, now, when we go back to the other one, let's go back to the 9th chapter. Go back to 9 and verse 13. To put it in perspective, right? It says in verse 9:13, and therefore be thou not curious how the ungodly shall be punished, and when, but inquire how the righteous shall be saved, whose the world is and for who the world is created. Meaning what? Don't waste your time figuring out how they're going to get punished, who these people are, why they got that way. Focus your time and energy on how the righteous is supposed to be saved. What is it that they need to do or that I need to do in order to be saved? Don't spend countless hours in debating of going back and forth to wonder, well, why is he doing that? And what about him? Can he get this? If he did such and such, worry about what it is that you need to do to make it, right? And like I mentioned in the first half, that's sometimes what we go back and forth in. Well, what about them? Well, what about the other people? Can they get this? What about you? Do you know what you need to do in order to make it? And that's heavy because not all Israel is going to make it out in the first trip. So you need to concern yourself with that aspect as opposed to the other 2/3 or the other nations, right?
That was my question. You said the people that's rooted out, are they part of the 2/3 or that's somebody not even considered?
What do you mean somebody not considered?
You just said the people that's rooted out was the same ones that when they came out of Egypt, they ain't gonna make it at all.
They ain't gonna make it at all. But now when you said the other one is not considered, what do you mean when you say that last part?
All right, the ones that you just said ain't gonna make it at all. Is that part of the 2/3 that ain't gonna make it?
And then you said something else. You said, or the other one that's not considered. I'm trying to understand what that piece is so I can answer your question totally.
What I said was the ones that's not considered, that's gonna be rooted out.
Right.
Is that part of the 2/3 that ain't gonna make it?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So, well, in the end, all Israel gonna make it. But
in the end, all Israel gonna make it. How you make it, of course, is the key.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, well, you know what? That really got me puzzled right there too. No matter what, all Israel gonna make it.
Right.
Reincarnation.
Right. Romans, what is it? 12 and I think it's 12 and 12.
Let's write that one down.
Romans, I think it's 12 and 12.
11:26.
Is it 11:26?
Let me read this right here. Let's see, that's the question at the table.
Yeah, that's it.
Romans 12:12?
No, 11:26. The water.
Okay. Oh, let me get that right there. Let me read this right here. Because I read that to her in the Bible. No matter what I do, I said, hold on, let me talk to my people. Romans 11 who?
11:26.
11, let me write that again. 11:26. What did it say? Let me know y'all get that kind. So all, let me wait till y'all get that. Y'all got it? Y'all joking? Let me read that. Romans 11:26. And so all Israel shall be saved, as it is written. There shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob.
Right.
No matter what I do, I said, hold on now, don't go that far. And this is what I'm a powerful phrase. She said, so no matter what I do, kill, rape, no. I said, hold on, don't go that far. Because you were just talking about death and that. You just reading out of it. Somebody kills somebody, steal, or being nosy. I said, no, you can't kill nobody. You ain't gonna make it to heaven like that. She said, are you sure? I said, hold on, let me talk. Now I'm gonna ask you this right here. Will she make it to heaven and she gonna kill somebody Thursday coming up?
Go to
there we go.
Galatians.
Galatians? I'm praying it right to her like this. I'm gonna read it right out the Bible. What? Galatians.
Give me one second.
I mean cut y'all fast. Galatians. We'll go from Romans 11:26 and we're gonna go to Galatians.
Galatians 5.
Hold on. I got that.
19 to 21.
19. Let me read that right there. Y'all got it? Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, wickedness. Say that word right there.
Which one? Where you at?
I'm gonna read 19. That's uncleanness, like
Lasciviousness,
adultery, witchcraft,
hatred, variance,
emulation, wrath, strife, sedition, heatus, envious, murders, drunkenness,
revelings,
reveling, and such like of the which I tell you before, as I have also told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God. Okay, thank you.
Right.
So don't do that.
Right. So it gives you examples of things that are not going to be tolerable to make it into the kingdom of heaven, right? But then it says,
don't do that, Israel.
Then it says, and such like. That's a key, meaning it's just not those that's named there. It says, and such like, meaning all the other sinnings that go along with what this is, all of this is the same, right? Because it could have mentioned more, it could have kept going, but it just gave you a few of them, and then and such the like, which means all wickedness that is not accepted by the Most High will not be able to inherit the kingdom of the Most High. So if you do those things, then yeah, you're not going to be making it. So now it's the same as what we read the last chapter when it says, and they that have loathed my law while they had yet liberty. So the liberty is now to make sure that you stop doing those things. But if you reject or you misuse the opportunity given now, right? It says, and when as yet place of repentance was open unto them, understood it not, but despised it, right? Misused it. The same must know it after death by pain. So going back to Romans 11:26, all Israel going to be saved, but there's going to be a few of them that's not going to have to receive that pain, and a lot more that will. That's the difference, right? All Israel is going to be saved, but it's how you get saved. If you want to do those things, then you're saying must know it by death, after death by pain. If you want to make sure that you don't do those things and you try to the death to fight to not do them, then you'll be a part of the first resurrection at the second death have no power.
Okay. To give also to enhance what you're saying based on the example you were bringing out. Let's say you lose you don't pay your bills, and now they shut you off. That now you're gonna have to pay additional fees, right? You're gonna have to pay the penalty. That's the pain and suffering you're gonna get. Then you can get your service restored, right? Back. Now you will never sin again because you know what had happened. But you have to pay the bills, you have to pay, the additional fees. You say, you know what? I learned my lesson. But you're still gonna get your service restored. That's like you're still gonna be in the kingdom, but it's how you made it to the kingdom. You're gonna have to pay the penalties and everything.
Without the pain?
There's no pain.
I ain't gonna be killing nobody. I'm just gonna go walk down the street.
No, it's not only killing nobody and such like things.
A whole lot of
stuff.
Right.
And such like things. Anything that's contrary to the scriptures, not just killing somebody.
Right. Right.
Don't still leave it like
right.
Right. So and now to put it in perspective, because the scriptures also tell you in I think in the 1st and 2nd John that he that say that he's without sin is a liar, right? So we know we're still going to sin, right? So if we put it in perspective, it's like, all right, well, one of those things somebody might do, right? We just read a few of them, variance, this, that, and the third. So we know that the scripture says that there's no man that don't sin. That means some of those, one of those, a few of those, or whatever, each and every one of us is going to fall victim to the temptation to commit one of those sins, right? But now what's the difference?
So we done.
Well, that's what I'm asking. What's the difference? Because if we know that there's those who do these things is not going to inherit the kingdom of heaven. But even the elect, the righteous, is going to fall victim to still sinning in some manner. What is the difference by which now you have the two?
I don't know. So now, some people, same example, some people say, you know, the hell with it. I ain't gonna, you know, try to pay that bill out of it.
Right.
I ain't gonna try to pay it. You know, I know the penalty is coming. Yeah, I'll do it when it comes.
Yeah.
But you have those, they still try to pay the bill, but they still fall on hard time. Right? It's not like they deliberately say, I'm not gonna pay. They lose their job, you know, but they still didn't pay the bill. Right? But they still sin. But it's not like they deliberately, you know, decide that I'm not gonna pay the bill. Right? So that's the difference. Right?
And then they give you a program to let you keep your services.
Right, so you don't have to pay the same penalty as somebody would deliberately say, I'm not gonna pay it.
Right. If I lose a parallel, it's just like sometimes you may have a bill that you working with the company, right? As opposed to the other one ain't working with the company, right? So if you call a company and say, look, I'm really falling on hard times, I need some help here, right? And they're like, all right, cool. What can you do? Oh, I can give you $10 a month, but I'm working with, I'm trying my best to pay it, as opposed to someone saying, get that bill out of here. I ain't paying that bill. I don't give a damn about that bill, right? So the company's like, listen, you racked up the debt. Like, you got to pay the bill. Listen, I ain't paying nothing. I ain't mad. I ain't sorry for nothing. Forget it.
Hang up for it.
Listen, they come to my house, you're going to get the door, maybe my dog, my gun, whatever else. Don't come bother me no more. They're like, all right, cool. Yeah, exactly. You got the wrong person. All right, cool. They ain't bothering you no more, but they're going to figure out another way to get you. Whereas the other person is like, look, I'm paying 10, right? And then they may be lenient. Like, if you don't start paying $10 a month, sometimes the company will come back and say, all right, the debt is $3,000. I'll work out a payment with you where if you pay $1,500, like right now, you ain't got to worry about it. You're like, yo, $1,500? I was owing $3. I could get off with $1,500. Yeah, because I was working with you and you was working with me and you was making an attempt to make it right. If you make an attempt to make it right, well, and the funny thing about it, you can look at it as a lot of money, because at the same time, the company, they making money hand over fist anyway, right? They're making money hand over fist. So it's in their interest to at least try to get something from you, but they want to work with you, right? The Most High sees us in almost in the same vein, whereas we want to work with the Most High as opposed to not working with the Most High. The Most High he can have the ability to wipe the whole thing away anyway. But he want to see if you want to work with him or not. If you're not willing to work with him, if you're going to loathe his law like we just read, you're like, all right, I got you. That's how you want to, bro. I ain't got to call you no more. I'll see you later. I'm going to see you later, right? That later going to come at a moment when most people ain't going to think that judgment is going to hit. Whereas us, we like, yo, I'm cognizant of my debt on my bill, and I'm trying to make it right. I'm trying to get that bill brought down as low as I can. Right? So I ain't got to have to worry about that aspect anymore. That's where the difference is.
Right. So, and that's when last time when we had a class talk about what goes around comes around. So with the Most High, that what goes around comes around, it doesn't work like that when it comes to the Most High. Because if it was that case, even though we working with the Most High, so I gotta be nice, right? No, even though you're working with the Most High, right? The Most High can wipe it all out clean, right? It was like it could be the Most High can wipe it all out clean, but it's not about that. The Most High it's not about what you do only, right? It's about the grace of the Most High, so we can wipe things out. If it's about what goes around comes around, that means if I do good, I get good. If I do bad, I get good. What about those, who don't have that ability to do certain things? So that's where the grace of the Most High comes in. So if it's only your works, then Christ died in vain. Right.
And last part, go to Isaiah 1.
Oh, man, that's what we keep there.
Go to Isaiah 1. And we'll get back. Isaiah 1 and 16.
1 who?
16.
1 6.
Yeah.
You know about that? Oh, I got 15 highlighted. Watch you.
All right. Yeshua, if you can read that, Baba Kushah.
What?
Everybody here?
Good.
Isaiah 1:16. I wash you, make you clean. Put away the evil of your doings from before my eyes. Cease to do evil.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 17. Learn to do well. Seek judgment. Relieve the oppressed. Judge the fatherless. Plead for the widow.
Right. So now right here at this point, this is the dialogue, right? It's like you've done all this, you racked up the debt, and now you're trying to get it right. So it's like, all right, well, you got to wash and make you clean, right? You got to figure out that what you did was wrong and now try to make it better. It says, put away the evil in your doings from before mine eyes. If it was left in the debt, don't go out there and haphazardly just be buying up stuff that you ain't got no reason to be buying. Stop doing that. All right, cool. I don't know. See, no one sat me down and told me that that was wrong. I didn't know that was responsible for me. I just thought that it was a get rich quick card. I can just go buy. No, it's not. Don't do that no more, right? Free money, right? It says cease to do evil. All these things that you was doing with the card, misusing it, was evil. Don't do that no more. You're like, all right, cool. So what you're doing, you sitting there and you're receiving the instruction, right? You're a willing participant. Learn to do well. So now what should I be doing with my card, Most High? What should I be using this for? It says seek judgment, relieve the oppressed. So while you got it, you want to go use it for good things. If you now need to go and buy a lawyer or buy this, go use it for that, right? So you can seek judgment and relieve the oppressed. Judge the fatherless, plead for the widow. So when you're doing these things, guess what happens? Read the next verse.
Verse 18. Come now and let us reason together, said Yahweh. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they shall be as wool.
Right. Though all that stuff, that debt you done amassed, though all them sins be red, guess what I got the power to do? Wipe it all out. I can wipe it all out based on how you working with me. Debt forgiveness, right? So now all the stuff that you did do, if you was a murderer, right? If you was dealing with witchcraft, selling drugs, cooking drugs, if you was doing all that stuff, I forgive you because you ain't know no better. Now you know. Now I'm giving you the instruction, and now you're going to be held accountable. Now from that point moving forward, you got to be like more than wicked. I mean, more good than wicked. Right? You can't still continue to be a whole bunch of wicked and a little bit of good. You got to be a whole lot of good and a little bit of wicked because you're still a work in progress. So that's why it says your sins, I'll wipe them all out. So that's why now for us, even though we still sin here and there, it ain't like somebody out there who never sat down to wanted to receive the instruction, right? Who didn't want to know how to use the card. They're like, man, listen, don't you go get your own card. Let me use my card how I want to use my card. All right, cool. You worry about it when you come. But I'm now trying to figure out what's the best way to maximize and optimize using this time that I got with this card, right? So then it says, read.
Verse 19. If you be willing and obedient, ye shall eat the good of the land.
Key point, you got to be willing participant and obedient and want apt to hear and listen, right? Then if you do that, I'll look out for you. I'll bless you. I'll give you that salvation. I'll give you the reward. Read on.
Verse 20. But if ye refuse to rebel,
if you loathe my law, if you refuse the instruction that's being given to you, read.
Shall be devoured with the sword.
The same shall know it after death by pain. Read.
For the mouth of the Lord hath spoken.
This is what the Most High been saying from beginning to the end. It didn't change. That's why he says, my word don't go out void. He didn't change like how man changes. See, we change from day to day sometime. Most High don't change. Most High told us who he was going to be merciful to and who he wasn't going to be merciful to. Most High told us what the end was going to be and who was going to be for, who it wasn't going to be. It didn't change. Man just changed. We just changed from here to there. Listen after that doctrine. Listen after that man. Listen after this. But it's all been the same. Right? So that was Isaiah 1. I started at 16 all the way down to 20. All right, let's get back to 2nd Esdras 10.
Just one question.
Done.
You said the one who says that he don't sin is in 1 John what?
1 John.
You say he's a liar for saying he.
Right. 1 and 10.
1 and 10. Wow. And it was in 2 John too?
I don't not worded like that.
Okay. 1 John.
Yeah, that one. I think that's the one that I wanted.
At the same time, it's not like to live with this sin, but you just happen to sin.
Right.
Or sometimes you just
Or willful sin. Yeah.
You said, you know what? just gonna ask him to stop paying. It's just like, you know what I mean? The situation that I'm in there, I'm gonna ask him to stop paying. It's like a sin. I just sinned.
Right.
But it's not like the position that I'm in, my lack of understanding, and I just decided.
And in the same context, because it talks about willful sin, and you did it on purpose, right? You did it consistently on purpose. Sometimes you have a temptation or a vice that you fall to, right? But then when you fall victim to it and you realize and understand that you just messed up, what's the next step? Repent. Whereas those who rebel or loathe the Most High's law, they ain't repenting. They don't even believe in the Most High like that. They don't even think that this is something they need to follow. They don't repent. Right? So at least we repent. Remember, the Most High said David was a man after his own heart. He wouldn't sin, right? So if the Most High is saying that he's a man after his own heart, he's like, well, damn, the Most High is a man who just accepts sinning? No, it wasn't the fact that David did it and he said he was a man after his own heart. David understood the depths of his error. And what did he do? He went and repented. He accepted what was coming from him from the Most High, right? He didn't go out there and boast, even when the man was cursing him out, the Benjamite. The Benjamin was cursing him out, and according to the law, they should have jacked him up. But he was like, nah, don't do that. Maybe this is just the judgment of the Most High that he's doing this. I got to accept my fate, right? Sometimes you have to be understanding of the consequences of your actions and from whence they come, why they came. Whereas those is out there, they don't care. Listen, man, we all going to die. So why do I care? Right? That listen to the spirit, and even in when my generation, I haven't really dived into it in this generation. Spirit of my generation, listen, what is it? Ready to die. Jokers is ready to die. Like they just live. They live their lives knowing that something was coming. So they're like, I don't care. Whereas we're trying to live, right? We're not wanting to die. We wanting to live through righteousness. If it so happens that I have to cross that road, so happens through spirit, through the righteousness, but not through wickedness, right? I'm not going to go out there and want to die for something just stupid and simple, right? That's what this generation is doing, and the past generations.
Standing next to a corpse.
Huh?
Standing next to a corpse.
Yeah. Remember. Listen, I don't even want to think on levels of that, but when I was talking about the girl, the sister who had the prom. And she showed up to the prom in a casket from the doggone hearse. The hearse delivered her, brought her in a casket, in a hearse to the thing, and they took her out the casket. And she in there, and I'm like, yo, what kind of spirit are you going to be in just for fun that you're going to put yourself in a casket? Right?
That's wild.
So, yeah, the mentality of certain folks is, they don't think like this. Last verse, last precept on this, and we're gonna go back. Jeremiah 8:3. Jeremiah 8:3. Gabar, if you could read that. Baba Kushab.
No, this mobile.
He said Gabar. Y'all so clean up y'all.
What you saying? It sounds like you saying
Gabar.
the car.
I said Gabar.
Okay. R makes R rhymes with car.
Right.
But what about the sub part? Jeremiah 8:3, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And death shall be chosen rather than life by all the residue of them that remain of this evil family, which remain in all the places whither I have driven them, saith the Lord of hosts.
Right. So what does that mean? And death shall be chosen rather than life of all the residue of them that remain of this evil family.
They keep doing bad. They don't want to come out of it.
Okay, yeah. But on another level, death shall be chosen rather than life.
Like you said earlier, some people don't want to stop and quit. They want to keep on.
Okay.
Like the friends I got. Don't do that, Israel.
Mm-hmm. You're talking about Israel, but when it says death shall be chosen rather than life, what does that mean? Death shall be chosen rather than life.
Rather keep sinning.
Rather keep sinning. There you go. Perfect. Right? Like it tells you in Romans 6:23, for the wages of sin is death. Right? So in choosing to do all the breaking of the Most High's commandments and liking to do it, you've chosen death as opposed to choosing life. Same thing the Most High told Moses to give to the children of Israel. Choose ye this day life or death. Life if you keep the law, death if you don't. Right? If you choose to keep other ordinances and commandments that goes against the Most High, you've chosen death. Because most people ain't walking out their doors and saying, listen, I'm going to die today. I'm choosing to die today. I'm hoping that a bullet or something comes. No, it's not what that's going into. It's going into your actions, your labors. What are you putting your effort towards? Your spirit. And all the things that people are doing is death because it's sin. They continue. If you eat a certain food that's not according to the scriptures, guess what? You've chosen death. Right? If you go in on and break a Most High's holy day, or you choosing not to keep the Sabbath day, you're choosing death over life. Because for those who are keeping it, hey, we want to get all the fruits and the rewards that come with us obeying the Most High, to suppress all of our sins, to say, oh yeah, he did that Tuesday, but look what he did the other day. I'm wiping that off. He good in my book. That's how we remain virgins in the first fruits when Christ comes back, because we did so much good that all that just gets wiped off, right? All right, so let's go back to 2nd Esdras 10. We have verse, I think 11.
12.
I'm going to start 10 and then read on.
12.
10. It says, for out of her, the earth, came all at the first, and out of her shall all others come. And behold, they walk almost all into destruction, and a multitude of them is utterly rooted out. Who then should make more mourning than she, that have lost so great a multitude? And not thou, which art sorry, but for one. But if thou sayest unto me, my lamentation is not like the earth's, because I have lost the fruit of my womb, which I brought forth with pains and bear with sorrows. But the earth not so, for the multitude present in it according to the course of the earth is gone as it came, right? So if now what Esdras is saying, stop considering you. Look at the earth. Look at our whole nation as all the pains and sorrows of death that we've gone through. Who should mourn more than it? And now you just coming up here just mourning for one, right? Then it's like, well, hold on. Mine is different. I'm not like the earth. I put this through my womb. I went through contractions and pains to be delivered. I longed for this son. And all of a sudden, it got taken away from me. Soon as I was about to have the happiest day of my life, it was the worst day of my life. So don't compare me to the earth, right? That's what this is now saying.
She's saying that?
Right. Yeah. But look, it says in verse 12, this is him thinking ahead of time.
Okay.
Right? Because it says, but if thou sayest unto me, my lamentation is not like the earth. So that's how sometimes we are. Like if you're dealing with somebody.
I'm not everybody. Don't come to everybody.
Yeah. Esdras took the stance where sometimes when you're talking to somebody, you already thinking for them. You already knowing where they're going, right? You standing there and you're like, all right, you breaking down whatever topic, John 3:16, whatever, and you already know where they're going to go. So he's like, listen, and don't come to me with this whole thing about, he created all mankind and all mankind is his and everything else, because I'm going to show you this, boom, and go to a verse. So this is what Esdras is now being proactive in doing. It says, verse 14, then say I unto thee. So this is the response. If you were going to say that, let me now come with the retort. Be quiet.
And at the same time, Esdras, right, is saying this in the meantime. He's counseling that woman that was there, not understanding that he was being consoled with the question that he was asking the Most High.
Right. Right. Because in his whole mind, this is sometimes how the Most High, I forget what the other storyline was, whereas in order for you to see something, sometimes you got to step outside of yourself and look at something else, right? And then now making a judgment or analysis on that, and then somebody will come back and we're like, all right, well, hold on. You done rightly judge and analyze that one, but look at you. You're the same case. You like, oh snap! I never thought about it like that. I never put it in perspective like that. Wow. Because every other which way wasn't probably working for you to see when I was coming direct. So now I got to come another way, right? So sometimes the Most High has to come another way for the person who's now going through, which is Esdras, or even us, right? Because sometimes we have to consider the other things that we just don't always consider, right? So here it is. Esdras is being on the ball here. He says in verse 14, then say I unto thee, like as thou hast brought forth with labor, even so the earth also have given her fruit, namely man, ever since the beginning unto him that made her, right? So in the same token, you talking about you delivered your son, the earth has been given forth man since the beginning. For us, we known since Adam. But there was others that came around during the time of Adam that are not mentioned because they're not important. Because right now, all nations on the planet Earth through the course of time only comes from Adam. The rest of them are gone, right? So here, you can't consider that you were the only one who was able to bring forth fruit. The earth also has done the same thing since the beginning of time up until now. Verse 15, now therefore keep thy sorrow to thyself and bear with a good courage that which hath befallen thee, right? So, so it's like Ezra's getting a little bit like, look, because of this, listen, toughen up, right? Yeah, be a man about this, right? Get enough courage in you, deal with what's going on and move on, right? But, that's just his frustration speaking, but like we just read in Ecclesiasticus, you cannot let it weigh you down, because if it does, then you be in the same context of what the woman in the vision is saying, that listen, I ain't going to eat nothing, I'm just going to die. Nah, come on. Listen, we've been going through this. We've been going through this since the beginning. People have died and everything else. Come back and the regeneration died again. Come back and we've gone through this hell again. Come back and we've gone through this hell again. So we no different from the rest that preceded us. Verse 16, it says, for if thou shalt acknowledge the determination of Yahweh to be just, thou shalt both receive thy son in time and shalt be commended among women, right? So this is where the understanding is now supposed to shift in Esdras, because at the beginning of this chapters, he was so in a miserable state and so was upset with the Most High because of what was going on. He got so proud to think that he could understand the way of the Most High. The Most High had to bring him down. So he was going through, why we going through this? Like, what's the problem? Like, why we ain't seeing the betterment? Why we ain't getting the kingdom? Why we ain't? But now he's looking like, look, if you trust in the Most High, don't worry about it. Everything gonna be good, right? So now it's the same thing, Esdras. If you trust in the Most High, then you know the Most High is going to deliver his people. You know you're going to receive that gift again in the end and to be counted among the prominent within Israel. So that's what he says. I'm going to read that again. For if thou shalt acknowledge the determination of Yahweh to be just, meaning his will, his prophecies to be on point, thou shalt both receive thy son in time and shall be commended among women. You're going to receive the glory and you're going to have a good name. That's what we all want, right? To be found worthy by the Most High and to have a good name in the end. All the other stuff that we talk about, oh, we're going to have servants and we're going to have this and all that. That's the extra. That's like the cream on the cake. You just want to be a part of the cake. You want to be able to say, yeah, I made it. Whatever position I get, if I got half a servant, I'm happy because I'm here. I ain't have to go through that pain. Gabar.
Is he saying that because God doing this to Esdras because he put that woman out there to show how Esdras was acting, and then Esdras got on the side of God and they started fighting for God.
Right. Because remember, he was that person who was so sorrowful and upset as to what was going on. Right. And now thinking that, listen, we ain't gonna never come out of this. Like, what's the problem? Like, why are we under these heathen? They ain't better than us. This, that, and the third. Well, just trust the Most High. He know what's good.
Right.
He know what's righteous. If you trust him and believe in his way, you know we're going to come out of this. Yeah. So in his counseling of this woman, he's starting to get it. Whereas she like, look, I done lost my son. He ain't coming back. Man, I'm going to die. Forget it. I'm pissed off right now. I don't care about the future and everything. I don't care about nobody else just but myself. But now he's coming with wise counsel to say, look, trust in the Most High. His way has always been on point. And he's going to give you that in the end. If you believe in, if you trust him, he'll give you a son. He'll give you that name that's going to be found glorious and worthy amongst the rest of the women.
And also, initially, when he first started to talk to the woman, he came with the residue of the sorrow when he addressed the woman. So, because he was mad when he started speaking to the woman. Mm-hmm. So, you're gonna tell me your sorrow is more? Look what happened. He still was in mourning mode for Israel as he eased up, trying to explain that one started coming to him and talk to the lady.
Right.
Because initially he lashed out at that lady, at that woman, because she was being sorrowful, and at the same time not paying attention to everything that's going on with Israel.
Mm-hmm. So let's go back. Let's continue on. We have verse 17. It says, go thy way then into the city to thine husband, right? So after all this, listen, stop with that talk that you're talking about. You ain't going, but go back home and go to your husband and be comforted and then move on, right? It says, and she said unto me, that will I not do. I will not go into the city, but here will I die. So she's still showing her stubbornness as to being upset and not wanting to see outside of her own circumstance, right? So I proceeded to speak further unto her and said, do not so, but be counseled by me. For how many are the adversities of Zion? Be comforted in regard of the sorrow of Jerusalem. For thou seest that our sanctuary is laid waste, and our altar broken down, our temple destroyed. How our psaltery is laid on the ground. Our song is put to silence. Our rejoicing is at an end. The light of our candlestick is put out. The ark of our covenant is spoiled. Our holy things are defiled, and the name that is called upon us is almost profane. Our children are put to shame. Our priests are burnt. Our Levites are gone into captivity. Our virgins are defiled. Our wives ravished. Our righteous men carried away. Our little ones destroyed. Our young men are brought in bondage, and our strong men are become weak. So consider all that now is going on within the nation of Israel, within our people, and not just you, right? And it's just not even the children, it's the women. Look what's happening to the women. Look what's happening to the men. You're thinking about just one child. There's a lot of children that are being killed, but there's women that's being raped, right? There are men that have been beaten and killed. Some raped too, right? You got a lot of men and women going through a whole bunch of things. Now let's cross parallel it over to our sacred things, right? The covenant is destroyed. The temple is being defiled. All these things is happening outside of just this, right? That we still have to continue on as a people. How do we get there? We got to now come back to all the things that we've seen in history where we've always come out of some type of dark place, right? When you read in Judges, we've seen the ups and the downs. And we came back up and we're back down, back up, back down. But we've always been able to make it through by righteousness and doing with the Most High. So we have to have that perspective. So don't be small-minded, be big-minded, right? You can write down Lamentations to go through as far as for all these things that we went through. It's been a parallel the same before. Lamentations 5.
And also like notice how he's using the example, right? And he's not using the example like people in the world would say, man, it could be worse. That's not what he's saying. He's using the example to propel them to a better thing that's coming. Not like that, man, it could be worse and then stay there. Like, you know, be open-minded. While you're going through these things, we have something bigger going. As opposed to saying, man, it could be worse.
Mm-hmm.
Some people will say it could be worse, like misery love company. Like, you know, while it's there like that, but it could be worse. And then you stay there, so you accept your situation as if this is it. But in the Most High stance is more so you're going through this right now for a bigger, you know, beginning, not just, you know, going down more. Right.
So Lamentations 5:11. So this is from Jeremiah's perspective when we were entered into this Babylonian captivity. What was the state? If you had to get a glimpse and a view of what was going on, it parallels to what we just read here in verse 22. So you can link this with verse 22. Lamentations 5:11 to 18. I'm gonna stop. Right. So it says, they ravished the women in Zion and the maids in the cities of Judah. Right. So the same way it says that our wives were ravished, meaning raped. It says 12, princes are hanged up by their hand. The faces of elders were not honored. They took the young men to grind, and the children fell under the wood. The elders have ceased from the gate, and the young men from their music. The joy of our heart is ceased. Our dance is turned into mourning. The crown is fallen from our head. Woe unto us that we have sinned. For this our heart is faint. For these things our eyes are dim. Because of the mountain of Zion, which is desolate, the foxes walk upon it. Right. So when it talks about, and like I said, the Most High and their wordsmiths, when it talks about the foxes walk up in it, right? It's not really just talking about, you know, when you have wastelands, you have all the scavengers and everything come out. They're out there looking for the pick of the litter, and things is they can just snack on or just get a little scavenge on. It's the same thing. When we was left desolate, foxes came up and ravished up in it, right? They was walking up and through it. Who was the foxes? The other nations, right? I think it was either Paul or Yahushua. I think it was Yahushua. He called someone a fox. Was that he talking about Pilate?
Yeah. Go tell that.
Right, Luke 13:32. Right, so the fox is dealing with the people. So when we as a nation got brought into captivity, all of these same things happen, and you see that happening even throughout the world. When certain wars happen, when they go over to the Middle East or they go to certain regions and they go into these lands, these soldiers, what do? Right, they're gonna go in there and pillage, steal money. Right, they're gonna go out there and kill men. What do they do to the women? Rape the women. Right, that's why they came up with certain rules like the Geneva Convention, where it says you can't do certain things in the midst of war. Right, it's just wrong. So there's like honor or a certain protocol that you have to follow when you're engaging in war. Like if somebody waved the white flag, if the white flag is being waved, you're supposed to honor that and take them captive. Right, you're not supposed to see the white flag being waved and shoot them dead. No, that's not right. Now when others find out about that, they're going to find out that you dishonored the art of war, and then they can come against you. Right, so even in this, the Most High understands that this is what our fate was time and time again. Now let's go back to 2 Esdras 10:23. It says, and which is the greatest of all, the seal of Zion have now lost her honor, for she is delivered into the hands of them that hate us. Right, so that name Israel, Prince of the Most High Power, right? The power, the glory, the prominence that it once had means nothing now when you in captivity. Right, when you on top, when you following the ways of the Most High, he said, I'll set you on high above everybody else. Right, now that name means something. Right, when we came out of Egypt, Rahab the harlot said, listen, we all heard about y'all. We all heard about your God, right? And we all trembled with fear. But now when the Most High doesn't protect you and the Most High doesn't have the angels and everything around you to protect you and you brought into captivity, that means nothing now. They're like, look how we got these people here, right? So we've lost that which was so great. Now it doesn't mean much. You can write down 1 Corinthians, a few pertaining to the seal. 1 Corinthians, I think. Let me check.
Yeah.
Hold on 1 second. Don't write that down just yet.
Before I make that, in my purple bag, what do you think? You still got crackers with you, know it, right? Yeah. That bread, I want to eat that. You take the bread, Ronnie? Oh, it's too good. Almonds, coconut, bread. You got this one. Where you from here?
Write down Isaiah.
All right, there we go.
8.
Right on time. Isaiah 8.
And verse 16. I'm gonna give a few here. Isaiah 8:16.
Right. Uh-oh, that's a good one.
Zakar, read that real quick. Isaiah 8:16.
It says, build up the testimony.
Read that again.
Isaiah 8, verse 16.
Bind
up the testimony, seal the laws among my disciples.
Right. It says, bind up the testimony and seal the law among my disciples. Right. So now jump to the 20th verse.
To the law and to the testimonies, if they speak not according to this word, it's because there was no light in them.
Right. So in order to be sealed with the Most High's name, in order to be sealed with the faith, you have to have the law and the testimonies, right? Both, because they all give to the edification of us understanding who we are, understanding what was in the past and what's to come, right? So that we now have a point of reference. Because sometimes certain laws have to have had examples and the testimonies that accompanied with them for our teaching, for our instruction. You'll see a person who did something and they testified about this. That way it now gives us understanding that each and every one of these righteous men all testified of the same thing and not something different. Because if not, you didn't have that, then you would be able to be confused like how you have the people in the churches who don't follow the testimony and the law. They just follow man, right? But we follow both law and testimony that comes from the Spirit of the Most High. So that's what we are sealed with, to have that understanding and knowledge of the Lord. Go to St. John 3 and 33.
3 and 33?
3 and 33.
All right. Let the young fellow right there, please. Mark. You know you were still young, didn't you? Like that. Oh, that's good.
All right, read that.
It says, okay, John 3:33. He that has received his testimonies has set to his seal that God is true.
Right. He that have received his testimony have set to his seal that God is true. Right. So all these different aspects of what we get through the scriptures reaffirms and confirms the seal of the Most High upon us time after time. Remember the prophecy. Go to Revelation 7. Revelation 7.
Want to hold that one we just read?
No, I'm done with that one. Revelation 7 and 3.
12, okay. Saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servant of our God in their forehead.
Right. Hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, symbolizing the destruction that's supposed to happen, that's supposed to come. That can't fully happen until the 144,000 are sealed, right, with the Most High in their foreheads, meaning in your brains and your spirit. Meaning you now have to come back and know the law and the testimonies, which encompasses and embodies dietary law, ceremonial law, moral law, civil law, history, prophecy, fruits of the spirit, knowing how to execute wisdom, knowing the understanding of when to execute wisdom. All of that is what we're supposed to be sealed with, right? And that is what the Lord is waiting on for us to get to that number of those who are sealed. But now going back then, you had men who were righteous of the Most High, who all of us fell victim to what? Captivity. All of us fell victim to it. When you look in the past, Daniel was in captivity. All these righteous men, Esdras was in captivity. It wasn't that, oh, it was just the wicked men that had to fall to it. No, all of us did. That all put a stain on our names. We were supposed to be the ones above. Now we're the ones below or beneath, right? So now the honor of the seal is not much. It's like, what are you if you're a prince and you in captivity or slavery? You in the dungeon. You ain't got there's no honor in that, right? So that's what he's seeing. That's what's going on. We lost the honor that was supposed to be that was ours when we came out of Egypt, how they feared us and our God, right? Now they don't care, right? Now they saying they are God, right? Let alone trying to be like us or trying to keep us suppressed in different contexts. So that's Revelation 7 and 3. Now let's go back.
Verse 24.
23. I'm gonna read it again and jump to 20 and go into 24. It says, and which is the greatest of all, the seal of Zion have now lost her honor, for she is delivered into the hands of them that hate her, that hate us. Verse 24, therefore, shake off thy great heaviness and put away the multitude of sorrows, that the mighty may be merciful unto thee again, and the highest shall give thee rest and ease from thy labor, right? So with all that has happened to Zion, and the Most High has always said that he's going to be merciful to us, shake off your sorrow. The Most High, the mighty, may also be merciful unto you and give you that glory in the end, right? So don't just think to yourself about your own closed-minded circumstance. Think of the whole nation, right? Reading on, verse 25. And it came to pass while I was talking with her, behold, her face upon a sudden shine exceedingly, and her countenance glistened, so that I was afraid of her and mused what it might be, right? So in this vision trance, whatever it is, as he finished saying that, her face just shone and then boom, right? It changed. It says in verse 26, and behold, suddenly she made a great cry, very fearful, so that the earth shook at the noise of the woman. And I looked, and behold, the woman appeared unto me no more, but there was a city builded, and a large place showed itself from the foundations. Then was I afraid and cried with a loud voice and said, so as he's now getting to the end of what the Lord is showing him, the Most High has this woman now kind of like transforms, right? She starts to glow and illuminate, lets out this loud bellow of a cry, then boom, she's gone, right? Now when she leaves, what's left but the city, right? It says, a city builded and a large place showed itself from the foundations. So after all that, what was going on with this woman, what came out of it? The city, builded, rooted, firm, glorious, right?
Most are great storytelling.
Yep.
In the midst of people's adversity, you find ways to create a play so you can get what's going on.
Right.
Instead of coming and tell you, they just give you a scenario.
Right. Right. Sometimes, I mean, this is a vision trance, whatever, that was given to Esdras, but sometimes in real life, we are given some of the same type things for us to ponder on and realize and analyze and assess to get to the greater understanding, right? Sometimes that happens. I think I still have it on my old cable box. A young sister got shot by a stray bullet, second floor, playing with her sister, shot by a stray bullet in her back, paralyzed her, right? Dudes was running through the block shooting up, and they took one of them to trial. The whole city was like ready to, if they could have stormed the doggone court and grabbed him up and beat him to death, they would have done that, right? But the young sister, she came in and she had to be about 8, 9 years old, came in the court in a wheelchair, and she took the stand. When she took the stand, the whole city, the whole neighborhood was in there, like, ready the death penalty. He was saying, not guilty. That wasn't me. I didn't do it. How you know my bullet was the one that shot this girl? So that was his stance. But she got up there and forgave the dude. Her mother didn't even forgive him. Everybody was ready to sentence this guy to death. She got up there and forgave the dude, right? In her testimony. I can't remember exactly her words, but she was very soft-spoken. She said, I forgive you for what you've done. And her outlook, she was going to walk again. She was paralyzed in a wheelchair. I mean, she was like, listen, don't worry, I'm going to walk again. I'm going to do all these things. So now, while everybody's in court watching this little girl get up there, say, going to be led by a child, they get up there and they see her. Immediately after that, the guy turns his attorney. I changed my plea. Guilty. Right? He pled guilty just based on what she said. Now, the rest of the town, one of the dudes came outside the court and he was like, look, all the while, man, we wanted to hang this guy by his neck and everything else. And this young little girl who now was the victim got out there and forgave this guy. Right? And she was like, look, how is it that this circumstance had to happen to this little girl to teach all of us a lesson on forgiveness? How could she forgive the guy and we was never ready to forgive the guy? She never changed her stance. Like when I watched the whole thing, she was never changing her stance, this little girl. And he was like, listen, we all went in that court and learned a lesson from her circumstance. So sometimes when you go through life, you may be just thinking life is just unfolding, but as life is unfolding, you are observing it. We have to process everything that's going on. And in that processing, sometimes you get the aha moment or the light bulb pop in based on all the stuff that you read from the movie. Sometimes certain things don't resonate with you immediately when you read it. But then a real life occurrence happens and you sitting down thinking like, that's messed up. Oh, man. And you meditating like how Ezra is meditating. And you're like, oh, snap. Yo, that's heavy. Y'all never peeped. Oh, this is... Now you even going into it a little bit more deeper now because the Most High has shown you a little bit more understanding on said events that you read through scripture. Not every time that you read something, the full understanding comes. Sometimes the Most High delays it for that thing to happen. And then you now have a testimony to say, okay, I got it now. I see it, right? But quiet.
And I mean, me personally, I believe everything that we go through, sometimes you see how you explain it on something big that happened. But sometimes people, they find themselves in big stories, but neglect the small things that happen.
Right.
Me personally, everything that happens in our lives is unfolding, and there's a lesson to every
of course. Yep.
But some people are waiting for something big to happen to get the lesson. But every day, your movie is unfolding right before your eyes.
Right.
So sometimes we might, may not take it, not to overanalyze everything, but know that everything that happens every day, as small and little that it may be or big, it's all our own experience unfolding in front of our eyes and for purpose or lesson.
Give me one to find the scripture. Is this here? Right, so it's like in 1 Corinthians, the 6th chapter, as far as what you're talking about, as far as for the big and the small, it tells you that we're supposed to be judging the smallest matters. 1 Corinthians 6:2 or 3, I think. We have to consider everything, right? I think in the truth, usually what happens, folks are always anticipating or waiting that weighted matter to happen, right? You're waiting for the riots, the race riots to break down the streets for you to be like, all right, yeah, now I believe the truth. Okay, yeah, now we in it. Whereas you're right, everything day by day that happens in our life that we walk is happening to fulfill what was written in the scriptures. And I've always seen, for those of us who are in the truth, that it be these insignificant things that happen that we may not think it as weighty as the riots happening or the nations fighting and all that, but the things that is right under your nose, the things that's happening day to day that you really don't pay attention to as something being weighty, those are the things that you don't pay attention to, that you don't consider it, and it becomes being a thorn in your back, and it causes you to think illogically and do something irrational, and then you may be out there because you're not paying attention to everything. You're just paying attention to the big things. I'm reading, oh yeah, and he's going to go and he's going to sift the rebels, right? What's the wilderness we're going to be in? Like, we only pay attention to what the breakdowns and the big things. Like, if your brother's debating on if the wilderness is now, if the wilderness is going to be when Christ come back, you're doing all that, but just the little small things that's under your nose, you don't pay attention to those, right? You got to pay attention to everything, the small as well as the great, right? That's why even during the time of Moses, Solomon, we always had judges to kind of deal with everything. You got to have, like, you got, what is this, small claims court?
Right.
If you don't have small claims court, yo, there's gonna be chaos. You got to have small claims court, and then you got to take things to the Supreme Court, right? You need both.
That's why Moses had a lot of work to do, because like little things that everybody coming through and hey, he took my stuff over there.
Yeah.
Hey, he thinks that this guy was busy all day.
Yeah. All right, let's go back. We have verse 28. So verse 28 says, where is Uriel the angel who came unto me at the first? For he hath caused me to fall into many trances. And my end is turned into corruption and my prayer to rebuke. So now he's.
I want to know what the word trance is.
A trance? Say again?
Days.
Or.
I don't know.
You know, all right, I'll give you something that's common. You know how sometimes you be, daydreaming. It's like you sitting there or you see somebody sitting there and their eyes just standing there just looking and they don't blink and you can tell they thinking about something. Right. They're gone. They in another zone, another realm right there. They hear, secondhand hearing what's going on, but they off somewhere else, right? So in the middle of his meditation, because that's where he was at when this woman came, right? He entered into a trance. And then now the Most High, and he's entered to many of them, because it says here, he have caused me to fall into many trances. That's how the Most High was able to show him certain visions and things that was going to happen in the end and showing them in a quick amount of time, right? So here he's realizing that this is what's been going on. Uriel's been doing this for me. Where he at? Because I need to get this breakdown. Because now I'm kind of frustrated right now. Now I'm bugging out because I don't understand what's going on or what just happened, right?
That's the city you're talking about, right?
Huh?
That's the city that the woman turned into.
Right. Everything that just happened, now he at a point where I need some understanding of what I just seen.
Because what happened is, like you said earlier, the way the angel come to him in the matter, it's like took him off the zone, because he's usually asking questions back and forth, right, to the angel. Now they show him something completely different. Take him out of the zone, show him like cities now, a woman crying. What's going on here? It's like he got taken off the zone.
Right. Exactly. Verse 29. And as I was speaking these words, behold, he came unto me and looked upon me. And lo, I lay as one that had been dead, and my understanding was taken from me. And he took me by the right hand and comforted me and set me upon my feet and said unto me. So while he's waiting, he like out. Like, you know, sometimes his spirit is just like gone from him. He's exhausted, right? So now the angel come. You see Esdras, it's like, yo, what's going on? Give me a hand, get up. You all right? Come on, sit up. Yeah, let's come back. It's like he done fainted and passed out from the vision that he's seeing. And that's not uncommon because others have done it. It says, what aileth thee? And why art thou so disquieted? And why is thine understanding troubled? And the thoughts of thine heart, right? Keep in mind, it's not like he's not the only one, because you read in the scriptures when Daniel was given the some of the visions, he was troubled as well, right? So sometimes the vividness of what you see and everything that's going on sometimes could cause you to like, yo, whoa, what did I just see, right? Especially when you're going generations down the line, right? You seeing things that you don't even know that were even going to be invented, right? Imagine Daniel and John the Revelator and Esdras and all of them seeing the end times. They seeing doggone F-22s and black bombers and lasers and all this stuff. You're looking like, yo, what the heck is going on? People being split up and blown up, whereas before, all you know is fighting you like this, fighting like that with swords and jabbing and stabbing, where you got people shooting bullets and they flying all around and beams and all that. You're like, yo, what kind of end is this, right? So it troubles you sometimes when you see the things that you can't explain. So it says, and I said, verse 32, because thou hast forsaken me, and yet I did according to thy words, and I went into the field, and lo, I have seen and yet see that I am not able to express, right? So you're like, what's wrong? I did what you said. You ain't come fast enough, man. That's basically what you're saying. I done seen some stuff. You wasn't here to break it down for me, right? The angel said 7 days, and that 7th day came, but now he's just anxious. You know, that's like sometimes when we hit the class and somebody come and they done read something during the week and it's been heavy on their mind. It's like, I'm going to class to get the breakdown of this. Class started at 7, they had like 6:10. And then you walk up at like 6:50, like, yo, man, where you been at? Damn, brother. I said, you know what time we get it? Class ain't started yet. I'm just saying, brother, I got some questions, man. I got some questions. That anxiety starts to build up and you don't even care about time. He's like, yo, you should have been there when I needed you.
Yeah, that's what I mean. When John the Revelator saw Yahushua, right? Verse Revelation 1:17. After he saw Yahushua in his glory, he said Revelation 1:17. And when I saw him, I fell at his feet as dead, and he laid his right hand upon me, saying unto me, fear not, I am the first and the last.
Con, bear with me 1 second. I just
So because it's overwhelming for you to see all of these things, you know? Because what he's seeing here is so overwhelming.
The lights be running because it went off on me.
No, it's still running.
Is there anybody on the telegram?
Yes, it is. I just mistakenly hung up on the sister. Bear with me 1 second. Those on the live stream. And then Salak, 1 second.
You like Armin Rodney? They had to put him in.
Better than chips. Some chips.
Oh, much better.
All right, Salak, sister. mistakenly hung up. So we're back. All right. So let's pick back up. What were we at? 2 Esdras 10 and 32. Right. Let me read 32 again and move on. It says, and I said, because thou hast forsaken me, and yet I did according to thy words, and I went into the field, and lo, I have seen and yet see that I am not able to express. And he said unto me, stand up manfully, and I will advise thee. Right. So get your spirit in you, and I'll break it down for you. Right. Because he's still kind of like, out of breath, or kind of like, all over, disjointed or whatever. It's like, all right, collect your spirit, and we'll go through it. Verse 34, then said I, speak on, my Lord, and me, only forsake me not, lest I die frustrate of my hope. He like, all right, continue, break it down, right? Because if not, I'm going to die of frustration. Like it's going to be so much hot anxiety in me that I'm ready to pop. It's like, I can't wait. I got no patience. Like, you got to tell me everything that just happened to me, right? He says, verse 35, for I have seen that I know not, and hear that I do not know. Or is my sense deceived, or is my soul in a dream? Like, was that fake? Was that not real? Because I seen some things I can't comprehend. What was it? Come on, tell me, like, what was going on? What was happening? Verse 37, now therefore I beseech thee, or beg thee, that thou wilt show thy servant of this vision. He answered me then and said, hear me, and I shall inform thee, and tell thee wherefore thou art afraid. For the highest will reveal many secret things unto thee. It says, he has seen that thy way is right, but thou sorrowest continually for thy people, and makest great lamentation for Zion, right? So at verse 30, I just read 39. So when you looked at Esdras' spirit, right, deep down, he really had a love for the nation, right? He really was mourning and desiring to understand what the fate of Israel was going to be. Granted, in the beginning, certain things he went about it the wrong way, but ultimately the Most High understood that his heart was in the right place, right? Maybe his mind or the words he was saying probably got a little disjointed, but he had good intentions, right? It says, this, therefore, is the meaning of the vision which thou lately sawest. It says, thou sawest a woman mourning, and thou begannest to comfort her. But thou seest that the likeness of the woman no more. But there appeared unto thee a city builded. And whereas she told thee of the death of her son, this is the solution, right? So now he's going to go into it. Yeah, you saw this person, you seen the city. All right, now I'm going to give you the answer. Verse 44, this woman whom thou sawest is Zion. And whereas she said unto thee, even she whom thou seest as a city builded, right? So now when it talks about the woman is now in comparison to Zion itself. We know Israel's always been compared to as being a woman, or the bride, or the wife, or the daughter, right? So in this context, it didn't change. Israel is still this woman, right? It says, whereas I say, she said unto thee, that she had been 30 years barren, those are the 30 years wherein there was no offering made in her, right? So at the time when David and them took over the city, when David took and fought and got the city Jerusalem, which was previously known as Jebusai or Jebus, from the Hamites, that was the period of time from when there was no sacrifice or offering made in her. Then that's when David started to consider and say, you know what? We got to get a temple going. The Most High said, you ain't going to do it, but I'm going to let your son do it. To now go and erect this temple to allow offerings and things to be done. It says, but after 30 years, Solomon builded the city and offered offerings, and then bare the barren a son, right? So this was now the city now coming into its fullness. Started with David. Solomon was able to execute it to now the city itself to flourish and become a city. It says, and whereas she told thee that she nourished him with labor, that was the dwelling in Jerusalem. So it was a good time that was going on in Jerusalem. Remember, during Solomon's time, there was no war. It was a peaceable time, right? So everything was going on. People was coming from different places to come and see the riches that was going on in Israel. Queen of Sheba came, and she thought she was going to see what she heard, but she seen even more than what she heard, right? That's even hard to come by, because usually when someone tells us of a story or tells us the expectation of something, you are way up on 10. And you thinking that you're going to see more than what actually is there. And usually that's what happens, right? Like going to see a movie, or you need to see his house. Oh man, this house is like nothing you've never seen. And you like, all right, I'm now start comparing this to things that I know that is out of this world. And you get there, you like, it was all right. Yeah, he had nice stuff, but it wasn't all right. Like you made it sound like such and such. But in this case with Jerusalem, it was that and then some, right? The people, the city, the temple, the king, everything was on a high level when it came to what was going on then. It says in verse 48, but whereas she said unto thee that my son coming into his marriage chamber happened to have a fall and died, this was the destruction that came to Jerusalem, right? So now where everything was great, where everything was looking all good and we was dwelling there for a time and being nourished and prospering, then destruction came in. Salah. Can anybody hear me? Okay. All right, Salah. So, so now this is the destruction of Israel. Now this is where the fall comes in. Now this is where we understand the calamities of what we just read in Lamentations, what we just read up in verse 22. All of those things, the mourning of the nation is what was happening at that moment. It says in verse 49. So this primarily, when you read in verse 48, this was now going into the Babylonian captivity, right? After all the kings, the Babylonians was the ones during Jeremiah's time that came in and destroyed Israel in 586 BC, or beginnings of 586 BC, when Israel went into captivity. That's when Israel went into captivity under the Babylonians. 586. 586 BC. Right. Babylonian captivity. So it says in verse 49, and behold, thou sawest her likeness, and because she mourned for her son, thou beganest to comfort her. And of these things which thou hast chanced, these are to be open unto thee. For now the Most High seeth that thou art grieved unfeignedly, and sufferest from thy whole heart for her. So hath he showed thee the brightness of her glory and the comeliness of her beauty, right? So he has an unselfish desire for the whole nation, right? And there's been a few men throughout the scriptures that you read, Old Testament, New Testament, and the Apocrypha, who've had that spirit. Those spirits who are righteous before the Most High then has opportunity to give them further visions and trances and understandings that other men don't get, right? I think it's in the same. I think it's later on in Esdras that the Most High says that same thing. Give me 1 second. I think it's in the Apocrypha, or it might be in Daniel's. 1 second. I'll find it. Hopefully, I'll find it in a few. So let's go back, and I'll try to get it before the scripture. For any of the brothers that's listening online, please text me. There's a scripture in I think it's in the Apocrypha where the Most High says, it might be Esdras further on. the Most High says that he only shows certain visions and things unto certain individuals. Thought was in Apocrypha, but if anybody remembers where it is or what I'm speaking about, if you could just text me that, just so that I can have it. All right. I know it's going to mention a little bit further down, but there's another verse that I'm looking for. So in 2nd Esdras chapter 10, we at verse 51. It says, and therefore I bade thee remain in the field where no house was builded, for I knew that the highest would show this unto thee. Therefore I commanded thee to go into the field where no foundation of any building was. For in the place wherein the highest beginneth to show his city, there can no man's building be able to stand. And therefore fear not, let not thine heart be affrighted, but go thy way in and see the beauty and greatness of the building, as much as thine eyes be able to see, and then shalt thou hear as much as thine ears may comprehend. Right? So Uriel knew that the Most High was going to expound upon him in this manner, so he took it upon him and told him to go into this field, because this cannot be built upon no man's theory, no other nation's theory. This is the open field. The Most High is going to begin to build up a structure of his own will, of his own power, of his own choice, to now build the foundation and build a grand, glorious city, which is dealing with the people, which is dealing with the men first, and then the whole nation is going to come after, right? So the Lord is saying that he chose Esdras to show this to him because he knew that Esdras had a good heart, right? Everybody's not going to get it, right? It's like when you would read the gospel, John, who was it? Who was the three that Yahushua had? I know it was John.
Did he put him in the fire?
No.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, he had, it said John, Moses.
No, not Moses and Elijah, but the three disciples that was with him.
Peter
was there.
Peter, John, what you say, Rodney? Yeah. Okay, anyway. It was three of them. I know Peter was one of them.
Yeah.
Peter, John, and James.
Peter, John, and James. Come on, I got your message. Yeah, Peter, John, and James, if I'm not mistaken. Just somebody confirm that. I don't want that to Yeah, so my whole point of bringing that out is because everybody doesn't get the same visions. Everybody doesn't get the same breakdowns. Everybody doesn't get, it's Peter, James, and John. Everybody doesn't always get it. Even though you can be a part of the elect, the Most High chooses to dispense or give to whom he wants based on his measure. Meaning he can give you the spirit of counsel. He won't give it to Yahuwah. Not to say that Yahuwah ain't a righteous brother. It was just not meant for him. It was meant for you to receive that gift of that spirit for his purpose, right? This vision now was shown to Esdras. The same vision probably was shown to Daniel. Vision was shown to John, the revelator. Not to say that Job or whatever wasn't getting the same vision, but because of their wickedness, it's just that the Most High chose these men to give it to him for that purpose, right?
Because in order for us to know that, you would have to know how James was like, how Peter was like, and how John was like, growing up relationship, how they, that's not, the scripture doesn't tell you that.
Right.
So like the relationship, how they were brought up, how they understand things, their relationship with your house, John, all that, play a part. Mayor.
All right, so I found that verse. It was in the last time, I think, Kahan, you read this in 2nd Esdras 8, 62 and 63. to go into why Esdras been shown this vision in the manner it was. So second Esdras, the 8th chapter, the 62nd and 63rd verse, the last two verses from the last service that we went into. It says, "These things have I not showed unto all men, but unto thee and a few like thee. Then answered I and said, Behold, O Lord, now hast thou showed me the multitude of the wonders which thou wilt begin to do in the last time, but at what time thou hast not showed me." So it wasn't showed unto him yet, but the Most High only he is selectful to choose who he wants to show certain visions to. So like I said, you'll get Ezra, who has visions like this, Daniel, who has visions like this, Ezekiel, who has visions like this, John the Revelator, who has visions like this, certain ones. And you can assume that Paul, because Paul said he's seen certain things that he didn't understand. So there have been few men who've been able to receive visions or trances or breakdowns of the end vividly, but not everybody. So now back in 2nd Esdras 10, and we at the
58.
5th.
Go 57.
50. I'm gonna start at 56 and go down.
All right now.
He says, "And then shalt thou hear as much as thine ears may comprehend." So as much understanding that may come in that he wants to choose to get, that's what the Most High is now showing him through Uriel. It says, "For thou art blessed above many other, and art called with the highest, and so are but few." Same thing as what we just read before. "But tomorrow at night thou shalt remain here, and so shall the highest show thee visions of the high things, which the Most High will do unto them that dwell upon the earth in the last days. So I slept that night, and another, like as he commanded thee." So up until that point is as if they didn't really get into the nitty gritty, because he's like, listen, if you stay here, now the Most High is going to show you some deep stuff, right? You about to get into some real intricate stuff now. You ain't seen nothing yet. Just take your time. And as I look into the next chapters, this is getting more into the intricacies with Esau's kingdom, right? When it goes into the 11th chapter and the 12th chapter, it gets to the eagle and the feathered wings and all that. This is getting into Esau's captivity. So now when you need to start paying attention to the tokens, when this empire comes up, because this empire wasn't there during the time of Ezra. They were not a known empire, right? This came later on. So even when the kingdom came later on, what is going to be shown even in the next chapter was going to be deep into their rulership, right? So that's when it comes in when he said you got to start weighing out the time, measure the time of the things that I told you. Look at that and then see what's left. So now when you pay attention to Esau's kingdom, because after this, you got the Persians and the Medes, then you got the Greeks, then you got the Romans, then you get into the actual beast with 7 heads and horns. Now you got to start paying attention to the measure of that kingdom and start divvying up what's being said. Then you'll say, oh, okay, all right, this is past. Before we were just here. Now we done got here. We still got this much to go. Because I done seen all this, read about it. That's history now. We still got this much to go. All right, so that's what the Lord is doing. Gun. All right, so next Sabbath service. In 1 second, we will be in, I think, Numbers. Just let me get the, yeah, we'd be in Numbers 13, 14. Numbers, the 13th chapter and the 14th chapter. All right. Also, next week, this upcoming week, Friday night, is the beginning of the feast of the rededication of the altar, known as Hanukkah or Hanukkah in the world today, right? So that is the beginning of our 8-day feast, Friday sundown. All right. So, we'll have a service. Noted that for 8 days, it's a feast. So on the Sabbath day, That's 2 Sabbaths back to back that we'll be able to cook in the honor of the feast day. So next week, which is the 30th at sundown, into the 1st of December, that's Saturday, it's a feast week all throughout. And then the closing service is the following week. I forget what the day is. Give me 1 second.
We're gonna have that here.
It's going to be here. The 7th. So the 7th. So yeah, so keep in mind, this is what's going to happen. So next week, Friday night, the 30th, is the opening of the Feast of the Rededication of the Altar. Right? Then the following week, the 7th, December 7th, which is a Friday night, is going to be the closing of the service. Right? The day before that, the 6th of December, is the new moon. Right? So it's a back-to-back. It's a new moon on the Thursday, the closing on a Friday. Right? So now I say that with this caution in mind. Pay attention to it, because if you need to get certain things, you get it ahead of time. Because Thursday, Friday, then you into the 7th day Sabbath till the sun go down. So if you need to get certain things, do that ahead of time. Do it before the sun comes in Thursday night, because the new moon comes in, and then the holy day comes in the night after that. So things that pertain to the feast day, all the preparation that goes into the feast and the new moon, all right, that's what's tolerable. But if you can get certain things, get it. But those are the things that's tolerable, right? The laboring and all that goes into the feasts, that's what's okay for us to do. But if we can get it ahead of time, get it ahead of time. For all your normal labors and pleasures and things that you need to get, I need to get some sneakers, a new thing for my wall or whatever, get all that before Thursday sundown of the following week.
Okay,
all right.
So we can buy as long as we find something that got to do with the feast.
If it has something to do with the feast. And I say that because I know sometimes you may say, I need to go get a platter of chicken or something like that. If you're not the best of chefs, you may rely on to get something you don't have, then you're okay. Yeah, that's understandable as an offering. Right. But your own personal things from Thursday night to Saturday night, that's off limits. All right. So plan ahead.
We're having a double decker then.
It's a double decker, yeah. Back to back. Good. Thursday night is the new moon, the 6th, and then the 7th is the closing of the Feast of the Rededication of the Altar.
You're not gonna miss Christmas.
Con. All right. So with that, we're going to send up closing prayers. Most High as well, everybody was able to get the understanding. If not, please write them down, your questions, your comments, your thoughts, and save them for the Tuesday and Friday night class. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh Shah, the Most High, and Jesus Christ, for the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that was being able to be presented through His Spirit and His Word for today's Sabbath service lesson. Most High as well, everybody has a Tawab remaining Sabbath and upcoming week. Lord's will, we're here. See each other during the classes through the week. All right. Again, Shalom, peace, all Israel. Stay tuned for the closing prayers. Somebody get the blinds. Bible shot. Barakata Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Natalanawa, Par Yahagapin, Tuara Aman, La Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Ath, Yasha Allah. La Yahweh. I might upon you, Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Baba Kushai, Shammai, Lanawa, Aitha, Yum Yun, Aitha, Shalak, Mayaka Allah, Waha Allahayim, Tazwadakim, La, Shema'ai, Barak, Rapah, Magun, Waha Kaziyak, Banya, Yasha Allah, Washalak, Lanawa, Rabiam, Kakama, Rabiam, Da'aith, Rabiam, Bayana, Rabiam, Sabalungwa, Rabiam, Amawan, Rabiam, Aqua, Rabiam, Ahabiam, Rabiam, Hagana, Rakhanaya, Wasalat, Ko, Kata Ayamnawa, Wahaakim, Wayasha Allah, Yad, Waiwalam, Bahasham, Yahushai, Tawada, Aman. English translation. Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai, please listen to us now, right now. Send Michael and the righteous powers of angels to watch over, bless, heal, protect, and make strong the children of Israel. And send to us much wisdom, much knowledge, much understanding, much patience, much faith, much brotherhood, much love, much spiritual protection. And forgive all our sins for the brothers and sisters in Israel, always and forever. In the name of Yahushua, or Jesus Christ, thank you, so be it. Four Corners Prayer. Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Barak Nawa, Wayasha Allah, Wabat Yasaparim, Shema, Yasher Allah, Yahweh, Allah Haynawa, Yahweh. All right, English translation. The Most High, in the name of Jesus Christ, bless us in Israel in the house of books or schools. And then Deuteronomy 6:4, hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one power. With that, we're going to say Shalom Yashrala, or peace to all Israel, and a Shah Shabbat, or happy Sabbath for the remaining of the day. Shalom.
Shalom.
All right. Akim, circle up. All right. Akim, Aymadwa, Barakwa, Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Barakathon. Yajimata.
Yajimata.
Sharsh.
There you go. There you go. All right.
Hello? Shalom, sis. Khan.
I tried to give it to Kawhi.
Yeah, that's all right.
You still back in 2000?
Hey, tag you.
I would say we want give me a minute, like I'll give you a call back, and then we could try to figure it out. We'll see if we can call in again. We'll see what's going on. So give me about maybe 15 minutes. Right. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll give you a call back. All right. Cut. Shalom. She got issues with the dialing. So we got to call her.
Down.
Yeah. 911.
No, I'm addressed it.
Woo! I gave it all to you, brother.
Yeah, he gave it to me.
Running down your beard. You might be Aaron. You don't even know it.
The dew in her mind fell down to the skirts of his garment.
You might be Aaron. It's dripping on your beard, brother.
Skirt, garment.
Top and bottom outfits are nice shoes.
So I got some too.
Somebody dropping oil on the floor.
Someone used to have a pro.
I did. See my picture on my phone? Show it to you one day. I have a big one. I had a tight fro. Brooklyn. The Brooklyn fro.
Somebody having a ball.
Yeah.
When the pros gonna ever come back?
That's a good question.
Ludacris has a big pro and they cut it off.
Yeah. Hata palama shiakari, known in prayer. Yabaraki Yahawa, Wayashamarka, Ya Ari Yahawa, Panyawa, Alyaka, Wayakanka, Yashai Yahawa, Panyawa, Alyaka, Wayashamlaka, Shalawam, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh, Baba Kusha, Barak, Rapa, Magan, Rashima, Ayel,
Yaokanan.
Yaokanan,
Yaokanan.
Yaokanan,
Yaokanan.
Yaokanan, Malak, 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 Zakar, Zakar, Yeshaya, 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 Gabar, 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 Pathak Mawak, Pathak Mawak, Pathak Mawak, Paquad, 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 Bahasham, Yahawashai, Tham Ya, Towada, Aman.
Stand up there so you can learn. I don't know. Stand up there so you can learn. I don't know the word myself, I was at. You know, go with my man.
Ya Baraka Yahweh, Yashamaka, Ya Yahweh, Panyawa, Aliyaka, Wiyakanka, Yasha Yahweh, Panyawa, Aliyaka, Wayashamlaka, Shalom, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahaushai, Babakushai, Barak, Wapa, Magan, Washamo Ail.
Samak.
Samak,
Samak.
Samak,
Samak.
Samak, Bahasham, Yahushai, Tamya, Tawada, Aman.
My, can you get the plates?
I got him.
On down?
I got him in the car. I just gotta go and get him.
Almost closed the Thursday, almost came out. Where you going?
Oh, you see, you got my message.
Yeah, I got it. I got the voice
Can you
message.
make can you make the lesson I missed today?
Oh yeah.
Almost closed the Thursday, I'm on my way up there. Oh, yeah?
You make that out for me?
Yeah, I copied it. Hopefully that printed working back there.
Yeah, hopefully.
What you talking about? Here's over here. Huh? Okay. I can hear What?